From the center of the universe, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, this is the SDM Show with your host, Rob Cairns. The SDM Show focuses on business, life, productivity, digital marketing, WordPress, and more. Sit back, relax, grab your favorite drink, and enjoy the show. Here is Rob.
Hey everybody, Rob Cairns here. I'm the founder, CEO, and chief technologist at Stunning Digital Marketing. In today's show, I have Henry DeVries with me, and Henry and I are going to talk all about why you need a book about your business. Sit back, relax, enjoy the SDM show is brought to you by Stunning Digital Marketing, the digital marketing concierge that helps you put all your marketing pieces together. We are your marketing experts. We are also your WordPress security experts and know how to lock down a website and protect yourself from bad actors. So contact us at Stunning Digital Marketing today. Hey everybody, Rob Cairns here, and today I have my guest, Mr. Henry DeVries, with me. Hey Henry, how you doing today?
Rob, I'm so excited to talk about books with your audience.
Yeah, and you know what? I love books. I think I was sharing with you when we met a couple of weeks ago. I'm a longtime reader. Um, I still read a physical book a week, believe it or not. That's my nighttime. You know, we do all the screen time, and I sit with a book every night before I go to bed. And for me, reading came up. My grandmother was a reader. My grandfather was a reader. My dad was a reader. One of my brothers is, the other two not so much, and my mom not so much. But I started reading, like all boys do, with a series of books called the Hardy Boy books, if you remember those.
Oh, I
And
I read all the Hardy Boy books and all the Nancy Drew books.
yeah, so you come from that same generation I do.
Yep, yep.
And I still have a set of original that belonged to my father, an original brown covers, not even the new modern day covers in my collection. So,
Mhm.
why did you fall in love with books? I have to ask.
So, I mean, reading was a big thing in my house, but my
Yeah.
mom and dad didn't finish high school. Dairyman and a waitress. Dad was always reading a book. Mom was always reading magazines. It was just all around me. And books were this magical thing that could take you other places. And I never saw myself getting off a dairy farm, so I was very happy to go to other places in the world of books.
Yeah. Do you, and I know we're going to get into why you got to do books for your business, but personally, do you have a genre that you like? Do you like fiction, nonfiction, and in fiction, do you have a
Well, I
genre that
I
you like?
publish nonfiction, and I like to say I publish books that solve people's problems. So
Yeah.
that's who I'm looking for in an author is like, do you know a certain group and do you have a problem? Now, I like mystery when
Yep.
I'm reading
Me
for
too.
fiction. So I've read the complete Sherlock Holmes and the complete Agatha Christie
Yeah.
and then other things like that. Oh,
I,
Dashiell Hammett, and so that's my love.
Yeah, I'm a mystery reader, always have been. Hardy Boy books should tell you.
Yeah.
Um, Authors I liked when he was alive was Robert Ludlum, one of my favorites.
Yes.
Ken Follett, another one. And what I and the other guy I really like is the guy who writes the books about lawyers, Mr. John Grisham, very much so.
John Grisham.
And yeah, and what I like so much about reading fiction, before we move on, is I can paint that picture in my head. Um, I remember reading North and South before the miniseries came out, John Jakes,
Yes.
historical fiction. And I read in a way where I put myself in the story and I can paint that in my head and say, this is what's happening. And I think that for me is the fascination with reading fiction books.
And when you do that and you put yourself in the story and then also experience it with your senses, like
Yeah.
what did it smell like? What did the breeze feel like? Or was it hot or was it muggy? And um, we didn't mention Tom Clancy. I liked Tom
I like
Clancy
Tom too.
super. James Michener. I really
Oh,
like Michener.
Michener special. No
Yeah,
question.
yeah,
So your reading is very much what I like to read. And then beyond business books, and we're going to get to that, I
yeah.
also read a lot of autobiographies. One of my favorites is the classic hockey book of all time called The Game by Ken Dryden. It's known as the de facto standard on. I luckily, and he just passed away last year, 2 days a week for my birthday. I got to know Ken through friends after he retired and after he was very much a politician and other stuff. So I had the pleasure of meeting him and had many conversations. He was a different breed. I mean, most hockey players cannot write. He did not use a additional writer when he wrote the game. He wrote that himself. And is considered one of the best. Unfortunately, I don't have it with me, but I have an autographed copy sitting in the other room. But I read all kinds of stuff. And my rule is for every two business books I read, so I read a lot for work, and we're going to go there, I have to read one pleasure book. That's kind of my rule.
When I was in the fourth grade,
Yeah.
I just devoured these books by a man who would write books about young boys who were playing sports and had some personal problem and overcome.
Yeah.
And my teacher said, "Okay, everyone, you have to write a letter to your favorite author." So I wrote this letter, but I'm thinking like, this guy must be so busy and so successful. He doesn't have time to read a letter from a fourth grader. Little did I know that was probably
Yeah.
the highlight of his week when you got this sincere letter about how much you loved their work and how much you read everything. My sister, the who has a master's degree in English and was a teacher for years, who, by the way, who handed me Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand and said,
Oh,
"Read
wow.
this, you'll like it. It's about trains." But anyway, she runs a book club, and and her book club, she said, we all loved this one author, and we found out she lives an hour away from us. I said, "Oh, well, you're going to need to contact her and invite her to come, spend an afternoon with the book club." And my sister had the same reaction I did as a fourth grader. She said, "This is a this is a successful, busy author. She's not going to have time to drive an hour to spend an afternoon with 12 women." I said, to spend an afternoon with 12 women who love her work. She would walk
Did,
an hour, to
did
get
she
there.
come?
Oh yeah, she came and they said it was a great time. I said,
Yeah.
we authors, and I've written 20 books. For the most part, you're doing this in isolation. I'm
Yeah.
surprised when someone says, "Oh, Henry DeVries, the writer, I've read your book," and they want to talk. I go like, "Oh, really? People actually read these? I thought I just wrote them and published them."
Yeah. Isn't it? And that's flattering too. Like that's the most compliment when somebody says, "Hey, I like your work. I like what you do. I like
Yeah.
how you do it." Um, Before we jump into why books, how do you feel about audiobooks in your business? I have to ask.
Oh, I'm a fan.
Okay.
And I'll tell you what the sales charts are, Rob. They're like a hockey stick.
Yeah.
And they're just going up. And my wife, who's, a partner in the firm and does all sorts of things, she is always listening to an audiobook.
Mhm.
And she started for a while. She said, "Well, I just read Barbara Streisand's new book, which is 800 pages, by the way." And she said, "Well, I listened to it." And it comes and she'd always say, like, apologize. Like I said, why don't we just quit saying that, "Oh, I listened to it." Don't apologize. You consumed a book, and
Yes.
how you did it, um, was not, it's just time management on your part that you can be in the car or while you're doing mindless work like the laundry or something like that, you can do it. I like to listen when I work out or when I hike and take in books. Part of my regimen is I'm always doing a book in the morning when I'm working out.
Yeah. How about I listen to audiobooks and podcasts when I'm working if it's not stuff where I really got to focus. I do that a lot. And one of the things I like about audiobooks is if they're self-read is for me which is really important is I can hear the author's passion. So I'll give you an example. We'll go back to my friend Ken Dryden.
Yeah.
His last book he wrote before he passed away was a book called The Class. It talked about his high school graduating class, and
Mm.
he wrote that in his 70s. I think it was 74, 75 when he wrote it. So it went back to high school, and you could hear the passion in Ken's voice when he talked about his classmates. And that, to me, is one of the attractions of an audiobook.
Yeah. And you get to spend time with that person. On the other hand, many of my authors, I recommend that we hire a professional actor to
Yeah,
read their book because not everybody is meant to speak for 6 hours
that is
and
true.
have enthusiasm and passion and all this. And time is money in a recording studio. And one of my authors said, that was the two worst days of my life. And she's a
Yeah,
professional speaker. But trying to
yeah,
do that while, well, it's like at the house. My wife says, I don't do repair jobs or plumbing, and we don't ask the plumber or the handyman to write books.
yeah.
Let's stick to our guns.
They've come a long way. I can remember I was saying to somebody the other day, we were talking about books, and Toronto used to have a cool little audiobook store called The Spoken Word. It was just down by Toronto City Hall. And they, at those days, so I'm dating myself. I'm probably dating you with me, so that's okay.
I
And
believe the word cassette tape is about to be uttered. Go ahead.
not quite. Well, cassette tape and DVDs, yes.
Okay. Okay.
And I remember buying the Harry Potter series on DVD. And I think
Oh,
I paid about $80 for the set at the time, Canadian.
yeah.
And now I'm an Audible member. I have been for a long time. And I get one credit for 15.95 a month. And then, and I'm always buying extra credits because my fiance is the only way she will consume a book is if it's an audiobook. She
Well, let me
likes
talk
to
about
mo
those Audible credits if I can,
Sure,
because
go ahead.
once when I was in college and I went to Europe and I was in
Mm,
Belgium and I ordered a Belgian waffle, well, a waffle, and and the guy said in French how much it was, and it was probably like say $5, and I gave him 50 cents and smiled. And the guy said, no, he kept saying, and then finally he just grabbed my hand, took the money he needed, gave me back money,
yeah,
and
yeah,
and that's like Audible. Um, Authors asked me to explain the royalties from Audible, and I said, I
yeah,
cannot. And I've talked to them, this is my business, and I've read things from them. Just, we'll put the book on Audible, they'll send you money, we'll give you the money. But what we're reaching those people who normally we wouldn't reach,
yeah,
especially under 40. Our studies show that people under 40 respect authors and books. They just don't have time to read them and they want to listen to them.
yeah. I know for Tiz, it's easier. Her latest book, and I've already read it. She's listening to the Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins right now. So
Yes,
there's,
yes.
which is a good one. So let's jump in. Um,
Okay.
in business, and I'm looking at the display of books behind you, and right away, the one that catches my eye is one saying "marketing with a book."
Yep.
How do you market your business with a book and what?
So and I have a series on marketing with a book. This that was the first one that launched our company over 10 years ago, and now we've helped 200 people market with a book. And it's not about the number of books you sell.
Yeah,
It's the impact and influence you create with the book. I always say a book is the number one marketing tool for a consultant, an agency, a service business, somewhere where it's expertise is that you're selling. And
hmm,
the book opens doors for you to speak on podcasts, on TV shows,
yeah,
on webinars, on stages, and people have the impact from listening to you And that creates also impact, influence, and income because they'll want to talk to you because it's almost like sampling when they give you that sample somewhere, like the little sausage at the big store, and you go, "Well, that's good. I think I'll buy some." Speaking about the book is also sampling.
Yeah, I would agree with you, and I think um, it leads to other, like you say, getting on podcasts and things like that. One of the things I enjoy more than ever is interviewing authors and people in the book business because they have all kinds of stories to tell. And then there's different types of people who write. Like I have a couple of friends of mine in my circle that are retired journalists. Um, Back in the days when journalists actually reported, didn't just write. So they would go, and you know what I mean by that? They would go out and they would actually investigate the story themselves and write the story and do the research. Not so much the journalism business has changed greatly today. We know that.
Yes.
And they write because there's an old saying, reporters and journalists never stop writing. So there's that too, right?
Yeah.
But you know, how long does it take? Like if somebody comes to you and they say, "Hey, Henry, I have an idea. I'm a consultant and I want to write a book. Where do we start?"
Sure. Um, we start with a blueprint, a plan, just like if you were going to build a
Mm,
house.
okay.
And I'll work with people and interview them. But first, we're talking about, well, what, who is this book for? Precisely, who is it for?
Yep.
Um, oh, it's for the owners of advertising agencies. Okay. What's their biggest problem? Well, 2 out of 3 say they don't have enough right fit prospects in their pipeline. And then
Yep.
50% say they don't have time to spend on business development. Well, bingo, we have a problem there. How would you solve that? And that's what the book should be about. Um, so that's the plan. Typically, it's easier to get a book written in 3 to 6 months than it is to spend a couple of years on it, because momentum helps in getting the book written.
Hmm.
Once you have the plan, you can fill it out. And I help people get through a few traps. One is the perfection trap. I need
Yeah.
to write a perfect book. Well, that hasn't been written yet. Done is better than perfect. And then the other is the comparison trap. Well, how will this compare to Good to Great or Eat, Pray, Love or The Handmaid's Tale? There was a little Canadian content I threw in. So well, that's not what you're not comparing yourself to Margaret Atwood or Jim Collins. Yeah, it's the best book that you can do. And then the belief trap. I have to get people past this little voice in the back of your head that says, well, what do you know to write a book? How much you know? Why do you deserve to write a book? That's an organ
Yeah.
in your brain called the amygdala. It's just trying to protect you. You thank it and say, "Yeah, I have something to say." A lot of people, I tell them, you shouldn't write a book. You have to write a book. You've got to get this out of you, and it's important.
Yeah. And you know what? All content creators go through that last thing. Why, what gives you the right to say this? What I remember when I started this podcast, I had family members saying, "So what gives you the right to start a podcast?" I have a lot to say, and I have a lot of people in my network, and I've grown my, I mean, it's that old problem. And I think you have to write a book for the right reasons, not the wrong reasons.
Yeah. And for me, the right reason is to generously help people with a problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we all
So
have
true.
problems.
So I'm looking at books behind you, and I always look
Yep.
at titles. Do you come up with the title before, during, or after?
There's a concept called the working title. And when I'm
Hmm.
helping someone write a book, I say, we're going to have a working title. The working title is the star that guides the ship, but it might not be the final title. The first book I was a ghostwriter for, um, the working title was Forget Everything You Know About Hiring. It was written by two executive recruiters, and they believed that hiring was being done wrong, and they had statistics and evidence for that. And when we, well, the biggest statistic was of people who they recruited, that people would spend $30,000 to recruit a CEO, 56% failed to meet expectations within 18 months. And
Wow.
they researched the reason. And the reason was expectations were not set until the person showed up,
Mhm.
instead of defining it when they went to the search. Um, we were doing an interview. The book was almost done. We were interviewing a CEO. He goes, I know exactly what you're saying about this book. And he says, it feels like they arrive and I think, you're not the person I hired. We
Yeah.
went bing. That became the title of the book. It went to 10,000 copies in print right away. Recently, they sent me an unsolicited letter that said, in the 10 years, we think this has helped us earn an additional $1 million. That from people reading the book, from inviting us to speak about the book, um, people publishing excerpts from the book, leading them to our executive recruiting practice.
That is so awesome. And there's the secret sauce. They sold 10,000 copies. They made some money, but it
Yeah,
led to all this other residual revenue because of the book. That
yeah.
is the key, as far as I'm concerned.
We've measured ROI of 4x to 20x, meaning if somebody puts, say, 25,000 into the book project, they're going to get 100 to a $500,000 back. If they do what I call the minimum requirement, which is speak at least twice a month about the book
Yep.
and mail 20 copies of the book out to podcasters, meeting planners, journalists, people who can shine a spotlight on the book.
Yep.
And if they do that, they can get those returns. One of my authors
Yeah.
didn't care if he sold a book, and he's made over $1 million. He said by giving the book away.
Yeah. It's funny because I've had numerous authors on the show, and the first thing them or their PR person will say is, can we send you a copy? And my number one requirement is, yeah, I'll read it, but then they have to come on the show. Don't send me a copy if they don't want to show, because I like to do give and take too a little bit, and I think it's important.
Hey Rob, if I sent you some of my books on one of those cold Toronto evenings, in a big chair by the fire, those books should
Of
keep you
course.
warm for about a half an hour.
Yeah, you're funny. And if I don't like them, you know where they can end up, right?
Well, no, that's how you're going to keep warm.
Yeah, yeah. I'm teasing you, but yeah, I just love to read. Um, the book business has changed. So it used to be there were a lot of independent bookstores, right? Out there. We
Yes.
have a few in Toronto, and I miss them. And I know you worked in Toronto, and we won't say where, but
Okay.
Toronto used to have a store downtown. I don't know if you knew it, called the world's biggest bookstore down right by the
Oh,
Eaton Center. Yeah. And it's gone, by the way. I should tell you, it's now a condo development.
okay.
It was one of my most favorite places. My dad had an office in the atrium on Bay across the street, and I would spend hours in that place. And I worked for them for a couple of summers, so I spent many a lunch hour in there perusing books and what I like to read, and it kind of shaped where I went from a reading perspective. I mean, they had it all, and the store. Now we're dealing with Amazon online, and um,
The
how do you
world's
feel
biggest
about,
bookstore.
yeah, what started off as a book company?
Yep.
And I can tell you the way Amazon buys books, and I could be wrong, and feel free to correct me, they actually get the manuscripts from the publisher and print their own, correct? If I recall right?
Yeah, it's we call it print on demand. Well, they call it print on demand.
Yep.
So they have the books ready to go. And one of my clients had an online business, and
Yeah.
I helped them with the book, and then I said, well, we can go to Amazon, have it print on demand. So if somebody orders a book, they ship out a book. And they said, hey, we're a retail business, we're a store, we want to keep those margins, we don't want to give it. So and I got them national publicity, and they got 27 orders that day. So they had to
Yeah.
ship 27 books out. And the next day, 25 orders. And every day they're getting all these orders. I go like, what do we do? I said, yeah, that's why let Jeff Bezos have some of the margin. His saying is, your margin is my opportunity, because it's hassle free. Um,
Yeah.
you make less, but there's a lot less hassle trying to be in the book warehousing and distribution business. So I think that's one of the great advances. I think Amazon is also great from the digital standpoint that the average Barnes and Noble big bookstore, you know,
Yeah.
200,000 titles. Last I checked, there are 40 million books available for sale on Amazon. So
Mhm.
it allows distribution. Like a lot of the books I do, maybe you're going to sell a couple of thousand copies, but it's going
Yeah.
to be to a real targeted niche of
Yeah.
people who really want that. And then that opens the door for the author to um, do training, do consulting, do paid speaking, all these other revenue streams that happen as a result of the book.
Yeah. It's funny. I was talking to a good friend of mine yesterday, and he belongs to a club called Provis. It's like a seniors club, and they often have book authors in. And one of the things I think these authors are short-sighted is they come in obviously to promote and talk about their book. That's the reason
Sure.
why they come in. And none of them allow Provis to videotape the the talk. And I always say to them, "You're on the executive. Why do you do that?" Well, the authors wouldn't like it. And I'm like, but you need to go to the authors and say, first of all, even if we put the video out there on YouTube, it's good for the author because it promotes their book.
Yeah.
The second thing is, um, if they're promoting from the stage, because that's basically what they're doing, they're promoting from
Yeah.
the stage, you need to get something in return, and that something in return is a video of the talk. How do you feel about that? Or do you think
Oh,
authors
I do
shouldn't do
events
that?
for authors all the time, and part of the deal is there's video.
Hmm.
And sometimes I'll say we can, we've got 7 people speaking here. If we all pool our money together, uh, for $250 a piece, we'll have a really high quality video that you can put on YouTube. I'll put on my YouTube channel, and
Yeah.
everybody jumps at it because when you speak to a small room, you impact
Hmm.
those people, but the potential to impact people on YouTube is so great. Some of my speakers who are Hall of Fame speakers, they
Yeah.
say that the way the business has changed is they get most of their speaking invitations, and they're in the ten to $20,000 range by people seeing them on YouTube.
Yep. 100% agree. I mean,
Yep.
I'm a podcaster and YouTube is outreaching like you wouldn't believe these days.
Yeah.
And
And
by the way, in search and SEO and the whole search game, YouTube sites rank high. So that's the other thing. So
yeah. And Google owns YouTube, so it puts when you do a Google search, um, it comes up high. Though I have to bring up an issue that's of concern.
yep.
It's it's artificial intelligence
You beat me
being
to it.
used as the search engine,
Yep. You
where
beat me to it.
instead of doing a Google search for a couple of pages and just
Yep.
people go to AI and get it to summarize, which is a regurgitation of content and there's a lot of things that we're not seeing. I know other people talk about AI for other problems and reasons. Like AI is your drunk uncle. Sometimes it
Yep.
says good things, but sometimes it hallucinates. But that's a concern. I have my joke about Google search is if you ever kill somebody and want to hide the body, put it on page 2 of a Google search because nobody looks there.
Yeah, it's
If they're
true.
even looking
Uh,
at Google, they're on the first page and then they're gone.
yeah. And AI is impacting your business because there's some people trying to write books with strictly AI in mind, and that's a problem as far as I'm concerned.
Amazon does not want that. There's plenty of programs right now that can smell an AI written book. Um, it's and this whole thing. One of my authors calls it the coming AI apocalypse. Um, is that this is all collapsing on itself, that we're doing it. Also, we're seeing that CEOs are saying, we're not seeing the return on this AI that we thought we would. Well, just because it
Yeah.
just regurgitates more and more content, which is less and
Mhm.
less valuable. Um, that's why people say, "Oh, you think AI is going to put you out of business?" Like, oh no, not at all, because um, people want analysis and opinion, and that's what
Yeah.
authors can provide.
No, no question. And to give you an example, in your business, many, many years ago, we developed this wonderful tool called the printing press. And everybody thought when the printing press was developed, oh, the book industry's in trouble. It's automated. No, it's a tool. It's to help you. And people need to realize that. And I think AI in your business and every other business is the same. It's a tool. It's got to use for the right place at the right time, but not to do a whole book.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, we use it to research things, and sometimes I call it brainstorm. We'll brainstorm with AI on chapter titles or things
Oh,
of
yeah.
that nature, and perfect use for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, having this thing, and people showed me this years ago. Oh yeah, you can just put it in the topic, put the things in, and it'll spit out a book. Edit it, and I go like, yeah, nah, not going that way.
Yeah. I hear you. Um, you said earlier when we're talking, the optimal time to write a book is 3 to 6 months of writing, right? And that's kind of that.
Yes.
And problem with writing is I write some. My brother's a professional writer, and he writes about actors, actresses. He interviews movie stars, directors, producers. He does a lot of that. And every writer hits what I call brain cramps, or that's my podcast, brain farts, if you know what I
Yes.
mean, where we're
Yeah.
writing. Um, aren't you better off just kind of writing when it's flowing well? And if you hit one of those, say, hey, maybe today's not the day, I walk away and I come
Oh,
back? Or do you
well,
push
Rob,
through?
for a nonfiction book, I teach that there are like 9 different ways to write it. So,
Yeah.
one way is that sort of like Deepak Chopra. His way is he
Yeah.
gets up at 4:30 and writes for 2 hours every day and is consistent with that, and then he gets on with the
Okay.
rest of his day. But for other people, I say, talk the book into existence. Have a series of topics that you're going to talk about, record it, transcribe it, then clean up the transcripts, or put on a workshop, record the workshop,
Okay.
transcribe it. Um, the way I don't recommend, though I've done it, I've been hired to do it several times, is I call it the misery approach. I name it after the Stephen King novel and movie where I lock
Oh,
myself
yes.
away in a cabin and I don't come out till the book's done. And I've done that for 3 to 6 days. And because that's concentrated effort. The only problem is the world, you've disappeared to the world for 3 to 6 days and I've got people depending on me. Um, so there's just a number of ways to get it done, and there's no right or wrong way. It's just what works better for you. But for most people, some form of talking the book into existence is going to be more energetic. You're not going to have those brain cramps. And I've been also a professional journalist for many, many decades. And when I hit one of those, well, I started with the Associated Press, and you were on deadline. And I covered baseball and football and basketball, and
Are you on deadlines? You have to have your story in before the game's over half the time.
we did, yeah, yeah. And if something changed, like uh, well, let's forget that World Series, but where the ninth inning, somebody hits a walk-off home run that the
No, we
loser
don't want to
becomes the
talk
winner.
about
The
that
winner
World
becomes.
Series.
No, we're not going to talk about that. But
Yeah, yeah.
so yeah. Well, Will Smith hits a home run in the 11th of the seventh game of the World Series. You have to immediately change your story, but you have to be ready. What could happen in the home half of the 11th to change it? I mean,
Yeah.
and when I was writing these stories, fireworks shows were going off and people were screaming. And I said, just, it's like, get it done, be in the zone. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
on other types of like feature stories, if I hit that, I would just go to, okay, let me explain this to a 12-year-old. How would I explain this to a 12-year-old?
Mhm.
And that just demands some clarity of thought and language, and usually that let the flow go.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. That is a whole new. I know a couple sports writers, and it's a whole new ball game. And I was talking to one the other day who covers like the Leafs and the Raptors, and he's like, and the Raptors had 3 games in the last 2 weeks that were all decided on the last shot. And you got to get that story. And game times about in Toronto, a basketball game ends about 10:30. And you're
Yep.
pushing press deadline to the point they're even holding the page where the story is going to go because they know it's going to change the way it's been going and all. And that's just hard.
Hey,
And then you've got these current event stories and the messes in the world. And I don't even want to go there. But the
little story on that. My father, he passed about 12 years ago. And before he passed, he would record golf tournaments, like the
mm,
VCR, and record the golf tournament, and then have me watch him with him. And there was one, and Tiger Woods was in a playoff, but he didn't count on it going that long. So all of a sudden it stops. And my dad said, "Oh, we'll have to wait till the tomorrow morning when the paper arrives to see who won." And I said, "Oh, Dad, I have this device that'll tell us who won right now and get it."
yeah.
But yeah, yeah, but we still, a lot of people still need that. But the other thing is, we're so instantaneous now. Uh, that story had to appear online in the Star um, at 10:36. It had to be able to say it, that
Yeah.
we were there. And then
Um,
for people like my dad up in Roseville, people get the paper in the morning to see what happened, needed to be there for them too.
yeah. You are an author as well as a
Yes,
publisher.
yes.
If you had one business book that you love that's not yours,
Okay.
what would it be? What would it be and why?
Um, Managing the Professional Service Firm um, is a book by a professor out of the Harvard Business School, and changed my life. And he gave me permission to take one page out of that book uh, and turn it into a career. And it was
Wow.
the whole page on how do professionals find clients. And his name is David Maister.
Okay.
He's still with us, and I dedicated several of my books to David Maister. And I
Nice.
found out about him because I was looking for the answer to this problem, and I was at a conference in Mexico, and there was one of the authors, speakers, and I bumped into him, and he was eating breakfast alone, and he invited me to join him. And he asked me, "Well, why are you here? What were you searching for?" And I told him that, and he goes, "Oh, a man has cracked the code. His name is David Maister. He's at the Harvard Business School." And I even later got to attend the Harvard Business School,
Oh,
a
wow.
certificate program where they taught Maister, but he had retired, and he was being paid $15,000 a day to speak to law firms and accounting firms and teach them all about this.
Yeah. I have two. One is the memoirs of one of the U.S. presidents, of William Jefferson Clinton, his memoirs.
Oh,
Um, Quite fascinating. So much so, when he released his memoirs, he only did one Toronto stop, and that was at the Manulife Center at Bloor Bay in Toronto. And I will tell you, there was more Secret Service around that day than I could possibly count. Um, the president is a
and
imposing
and that's when
figure.
we were friendly nations.
Yes, oh, we're still
Sorry,
friends.
sorry.
Yeah, yeah. You and
Do
I
you
are
know?
still
Do you
friends.
know all? If you go to a fort in Canada, all the cannons face south.
Yep, I
Yeah.
do. I do. And the and I had the pleasure of I went down because I wanted a signed copy, and I will tell you the president's handshake is pretty strong. I'll tell you that now. The
I
other,
have not met him. People who have just say the charisma and
Oh,
magnetism
no question, no
is
question,
just
no
is
question.
just palpable, just whoa.
I've seen him speak several times at business events, and I just every time I hear President Clinton speak, I just walk out of there like, wow. And um, and the only other one that fits in that category and use it as president for me is President Obama and his wife Michelle. Um, Michelle is a dynamic, and she's written books. They've both written books, and
Yes.
Michelle is a dynamic author and a dynamic speaker. Very enjoyable. The other book that sits in, and I was just listening to an interview of him, is a gold standard called The Atomic Habits by James Clear. Um, that
Excellent
book,
book.
uh, that book has meant more to how I've changed my thought process over the years than many books I've read. So
Yeah.
that's kind of.
Yeah.
Um, if you had a chance again, would there be something that you would write that you haven't written or you want to write? Can you share?
Oh, I haven't stopped. Um, I've got I come out with at least a book a year.
Okay.
Um, and I one of my mentors is a man by the name of Ken Blanchard. He wrote The 1 Minute Manager,
Okay.
and I had publicized Ken, and he even had me do some ghostwriting for a textbook that his name was on once. And but I was interviewing him at a conference, and there's all these people there and authors, and he said, Henry, I haven't written a single book. And I said, Ken, you're pulling my leg. I know you've written 50 books. He says, no, I've co-authored 50 books. I know what I know. I want to know what other people know. So he's greatly encouraged me. I'm doing mostly co-authoring these days and working with other authors and I don't have to be the lead author on it. I'm just happy to help.
No, I agree. I have not written a book, but I have contributed now to five other books, either a
Okay.
chapter. One recently was I had some colleagues of mine write a book, and they came to me and said, "Would I write the introduction for the book?" It was a marketing book, and I
Nice.
was more than flattered, to be honest with you. So
Yeah.
it's just one of those things, and so I just haven't. I know they're a lot of work, and I have enough other. Right now, I have enough side projects going on that despite loving them, I it's one road I need to go, but I haven't gone. Um, in terms of you're a publisher, and
Yes.
one of the things that I've worked with authors, and I think the lead time to promote a book is actually really long. And I think the authors that publish in November and start promoting in December and say, I want to make sales for Christmas. And I just shake my head and say, no, no, no.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Well, one of my mottos is publishing the book is the starting line, not the finish line. So
Yep.
many people just, oh, I've got the books done now. And now what? It's like, no, we were working as soon as you turned the manuscript into publishing, then we started marketing the book
Yeah. Yeah.
and doing talks about your upcoming book and appearances. And people say, well, why would you do a podcast if the book isn't for sale yet? Didn't P.T. Barnum say, don't bang the drum until you have circus tickets to sell? Well, that's not the world we live in. Um, we need to be talking, generating interest, building lead time to get out there. Um, you can't wait for your book to be discovered. None of us are discovered. Um, and you mentioned famous people, Michelle Obama and her book. Uh, she certainly didn't wait till the book came out to start promoting it. So that's the author's real job. Is first the job is to create a book you are proud of. I am
Mhm.
proud of this book and I love it. And then your job is to get other people to love it. And you
Yeah.
do that by talking about the book. More people
Yeah.
will be impacted by you talking about the book than actually reading the book. And that's okay.
Yeah. It's so true. I think of a book I bought recently in the last year. On Canada, there's a TV show called The Social. It's like a round table, like The View or something similar.
Yeah.
And I won't watch The View, but that's another story.
That's
And
another story.
yeah, and there was an author on, and he was promoting a book called Chasing Shadows. And I didn't see it live. A friend of mine actually PVR'd it and then was over the next day, said, "You got to watch this." Guy by the name of Robert Dilbert, and it was from a company called Citizen Labs. They're one of the world's most cybersecurity firms. The book
Ah,
hadn't come out. He was on a week before the book was coming out. I didn't get 5 minutes into the interview when I turned around and pre-ordered the book on Amazon and said, "Send me a copy." Better still, send me two. So there's the magnitude. Here's a book coming out a week later, and I've already pre-ordered. And I do that a lot. Now, I got really lucky on this one. Citizen Labs is affiliated with the University of Toronto. They're a well-known cyber company. They have done work with the White House, the governments. They're in that echelon. And I
hmm.
have a friend of mine who works at UT, and I had a chance to meet the author and have lunch with the author. And just a friend did me a favor, and needless to say, and that was an enlightening conversation. All because I saw a pre-promotion clip on a talk show on TV a week before the book came out.
It's interesting in business.
Yeah,
If you or I try to promote our business, we're
yeah,
not going to get publicity or talk shows or anything like that. But if you write a book, the
yep,
media is willing to give you a listen. What is this about? And if it's worthy, they'll shine a spotlight on it. It's
yep.
it's unlike anything else in business. There's like a free
It's
pass. Oh, the
powerful.
only other free pass is for the entertainment industry.
Yeah,
Because and like your friend, is it your brother, friend, the journalist who
my brother, no question.
your brother, yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
because we, and my son is a journalist, and he was covering the entertainment industry, and he was reviewing video games.
okay,
Um, and because I said, well, I only write about things that I'm positive about and share it. He goes,
yeah, I
yeah,
agree.
I don't have that luxury because people spend $50 to $100 for something like this. They have to know if it's worthy.
Yeah,
Same thing with a film or a play or anything like that.
yeah.
We need, we not just social media and influencers. We need somebody who's done some analysis here and will tell us that. So I think it's a noble profession. Your brother is in, my son is in.
Yep.
Anybody doing this it's a very noble profession.
No, no question. You mentioned social media. I have to go there. How much of an
Sure.
impact is social media on the book industry? Things like Facebook, things like X/Twitter, things like
Yeah, yeah.
Instagram.
So
Huh?
so I know I'm a boomer, but I'm not one of those get those kids off my lawn. I'm not gonna post a picture of what I had for lunch. No,
Yeah,
I'm doing at least two social media posts a day about
good for you.
different things we're involved in, and it's which one is your social media drug of choice just depends on for the business world, LinkedIn is very important. I
Yep,
find for professionals, for some reason, Facebook is huge. Um, my daughter, who's my business partner, the associate publisher, Instagram.
yep.
She's posting there, and so it's it amplifies the other work. It doesn't replace it.
No
That's what I
question.
found.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
now there's so much of it being fake. And I mean, on little things like, the 10 greatest hockey players, and then they'll put up people and you'll go like, why isn't Gordie Howe on that list? It's like,
Yeah, yeah.
it's just like so random and like, what is this about? It's just to distract us and get us off of things. So the social media things that I like are from real people and not all this generated stuff that is it's just the garbaging up what's out there.
No, I agree with you. Henry, I got to tell you, this conversation's been amazing. You're amazing. I love what you do. And
Oh
thank you
shucks.
for, yeah, so shucks. I'm sure this is the first of a few, so that's okay. Um, How, if somebody wants to get in touch with you, wants to write a book, wants some help, how's the best way to get a hold of you?
Sure. They should go to my website, Indie, Indie, books, intl.com, short for international. And we work with people not only in the United States and Canada, but in Europe and Asia. We'll help them. I do a monthly class,
Okay.
and if anybody mentions you or this show, I will comp them in to the class. It's normally $365, but it's 2 hours, and I help them answer 7 questions you should answer before you write a book or promote a book. I also will do one-on-one strategy calls with people if they're serious about doing a book and they're non-selling zone. I don't try to sell them anything. I help them get clear on their goal for writing a book,
Yep.
get them clear on what assets they have right now to do a book, clear on what are the roadblocks that are ahead of them, and then some clarity around how have others in their situation succeeded with getting a book done. So I do that. So those that website. That's a pretty easy way to find me. And I even get phone calls sometime. I got one that says, "Is this Henry DeVries, the ghostwriter?" And I said, "Well, yes." And he goes, "Well, my story takes place on October 31st in an old mansion during a thunderstorm, and a seance is being held to try to contact the spirit." And I said, "I got to stop you right there. I'm not that type of ghostwriter. I'm a business book ghostwriter. I help business leaders. I'm a tool for them to get a book done." So,
Yeah.
with that,
So true.
anybody who wants to talk and mention your name, they're good people to me.
Yeah. Thanks, Henry. I really appreciate joining me. And let's leave with this. Go find your favorite book and have a read. Have a great day. Bye for now. This podcast has been brought to you by Stunning Digital Marketing, your digital marketing concierge to help the business owner put all his pieces together, whether it's email marketing, WordPress security, WordPress design and development, PPC, and more. Text Stunning Digital Marketing for all your digital marketing needs today. A very special thank you to Henry for joining me on this edition of the SDM Show. The SDM Show is dedicated to my late father, Bruce Cairns. Dad, I miss you very much every day. My mother, Ann Cairns, who's still doing really well and is an inspiration. And of course, Tiz Maroney. And Tiz, I know I've said it, but thank you so much for all the inspiration you give me every day.